Let's see where we're going to go today. Always takes a little bit for the systems to wake up and go through. There we are. Let's see if we've... Aha! That's now telling me I am live. There we are. Hopefully. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Oh, there we are. We have found.
That's now hopefully.
Right, so that means I know I can see and hear everyone. And let me just share. There we are. Today, and then I can pop my phone down where I can see the comments, and I can double run my comments this way. Good afternoon, Jan. I know I can see and hear today, so that's always all good. Oops, let's just move that so I don't stand in some half-dried resin. Hi, Juliana. Hi, Esther. Hi, Gillian. Good evening, Isabel. Hi, Barbara. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are going to be doing a pretty project today. Because I wanted a pretty project as much as anything else. And why not? Why not indeed? So, I have a glass jar. It comes with a wooden lid. And we are going totally pretty and feminine today. I know. Totally pretty and feminine. Yeah, I can do pretty and feminine. And we're also, oh dear, going paired back. Oh, well. And I have, as ever, done a bit of prep. So whilst we just wait for a few people to come on. My name is Gill. I'm one of Pentart's creative team members. I've been probably with them now for 4 years, maybe, possibly. I think it's about that long. Certainly, might be a bit less than that, but certainly a goodly long time. And I do my lives in English because I don't speak any other languages, to be honest. But sometimes that has its uses. So let me just peel all of these pieces off. This is literally just some masking tape. That's been holding some pieces in place, and we'll come back to that at another point, because I had to do some prep. And there we are. Excellent. Cool. So let's pop that over there, and that will work to start with. We've got a reasonable amount of drying to do this evening. Yeah, I'm being lazy. I'm not taking that off the bottom, she says. That sounds like it might be cracked. Can't see a crack. Anyway, that's the one we're using, so that's the one it was going to be. And because I've had tape on here, I'm just going to give this a quick spritz with some alcohol and degrease the surface, which is always cool. So that is Pentart's rubbing alcohol, but any rubbing alcohol will work. I just want a nice clean degrease surface, minus any tape or stickiness from the tapes. There we are. Let's get rid of that bit, and then I can start the project that we're going to do. And we're going to be using, as a starting point for this, though it is a live using the new resins, the Pentart's transparent cracking gel. There we are. We'll pop that over there so you can see what I'm doing. And as the bottle suggests, this is a 2-component process. Good evening, Connie. Step 1 and step 2. There we are. We've got 2 pots of that. So I just need to pop those out of the way. And we're just going to add a layer of this over our piece, and then we're going to have to dry it. And I could have done some of this, but life is sometimes too short, and I've done quite a lot of prepping anyway to make life a little bit easier for myself. But we're going to go through all of the steps anyway, because why not? But I thought, Let's see, what else? How can we push the boundaries? What can we do? Because we all know we can use resin in ordinary moulds. We know that the new rapid resins are flexible and can come out of the moulds at about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and stay flexible for a good few hours afterwards, and that is helpful when it comes to being able to shape resin pieces to curved surfaces. But I thought, well, we've done some ordinary shaping of ordinary moulds, and I've done some some pouring into moulds because that's the conventional use for them. And then I thought, why not? Let's do something just a little bit different. So there we are. Let's just pop this onto here. Pop this onto here. That's not going to affect how it works. I don't want. Let's just get rid of some of the thickness of this, because otherwise we might be here for an awful long time whilst it dries, and that's okay. We'll get slightly different cracks, but we maybe don't wish to be here until too long with the dryer going. But we do need to do just some bits of drying. So let's make sure we've got that all onto there. So as I said, that is the, oops, sorry ladies, if that's made you seasick, the step 1 of the transparent cracking gel. And we can, oh, she says, take this and give it a little bit of a dry. So you notice that I'm going to give this indirect heat into this inside of the glass jar rather than putting it all on the outside. We'll do a bit of mix and match because I need to get this dry, because that's what we're going to need to do for the second coat. And should have picked the heat gun with a slightly longer lead, I think, today. We've got to out, so let's just, we can just shuffle that round a bit and move this round. So the one component bottle goes on milky and will dry clear. So here we are. Just, it won't take forever, but we just need to do this. And I can see some areas where I might miss, but in the grand scheme of things, that's probably not going to matter too greatly. Because I'm wanting a textured surface for the final piece anyway. So that's all cool. And I can see that it's already beginning to dry, which is cool. Heating it inside my glass jar, and it will retain a bit of the heat and will dry from the bottom out as opposed to from the top, and that just minimises the risk of it bubbling. Yeah. I'll turn this round, you'll be able to see just how well and how quickly it will dry by using it this way. Yeah. We are getting there, we're going nicely. So good evening, Elizabeth, welcome my darling. Hello. Got chocolate muffins today. Oh, I don't understand how that camera flash. I do apologise if that happens to you. Just pop that into there because this needs to be properly dry all the way around. And patience is the name of the game, as we all know. It's not necessarily what I am, but I hope. We've got 2 areas of drying to do today. Looks like my connection's intermittently going and misbehaving. Good afternoon, Sabine. Welcome, my darling. Hello, Sue. Welcome. Welcome. Right, we are. We'll just take this to the outside. So this glass jar is now quite hot. And I'm going to let it cool down and do one more thing before we come back to it. I will come back to it and put a step 2 on, but I don't want to put my second part on while it is red hot. Yeah, but here we are. But we need to do a little bit of unmolding. So this is the surprise, and this is where I got the idea for this. So we have cake lace molds, and we know that we can use things like the modelling paste in them quite happily. I think that might just be a little bit till it's just not quite dry enough. That's going to be a pain. Because the drying time of the resin depends on your ambient temperature, and if I pull the shape I will distort it. So let me just see if it's going to. I think it just needs to sit there for a little bit longer. Let me just pop it back in the molds. It's pull that, so I might have to show you on here, but let's see where we are in a little bit. It just needs to dry a bit more, and that is still way too hot. So this piece of this one I cast at the same time as I did my lace mold, and thicker molds thicker than thin molds. So this is a piece cast 2 hours ago. It's possibly a little bit early for demolding because it's wrinkling, but you can see just how flexible that is. And I've got an extra mold, an extra piece here from that, and all you need to do is park it onto your piece that you want it to shape to. And then once it's out of the mold, I'm going to show you how I mix these to make them, though otherwise we won't be here for very long. So all I'm going to do now is take my nice soft piece of resin, and I can stick it down. I don't want to squash too hard. It's just a little bit too soon for demolding, but we need to do another step anyway. So let me pop some of these pieces just ever so carefully out of the way whilst we get another layer out. Let me just pop that on the floor. The floor will be nice and cold, so that will work. Oh, and it's just as well. So the curing time for the resin is about 2 hours in an ambient temperature of 25 degrees. So when it's not quite temperature 25 degrees, it takes a bit longer. And I don't think it has been 25 degrees, even in my conservatory today. So it's definitely taking longer. You'll know because when it's ready. So let's just pop that on the floor, which possibly also doesn't help for the moment. And then we're going to do safety first, because we really need to do that. Why is that misbehaved? There we are. I do like it when phones and things misbehave. So safety first, we're going to be working with resin. And that's just cool. So let us pop some gloves on. So I'm going to work with the white resin today, and we have components A and B. Remember, there are ivory resins and there's also this white resin, and the white resin becomes pastel shades when you mix it with the resin tints, so that allows you to do lots of different things with it. Now then, wow, I did have some more bit. Oh, there we are. There's 3 on there. I thought I'd put everything together. So this is component B, and the B components are definitely much thicker than the A components. So let's just squidge that off, put the excess back into the pot, wipe that down, and notice I have put gloves on, and that's because resins are, or as I know, I'm not allergic to resin. It's actually quite easy to become sensitized over time with repeated exposure, and I use a lot of resin. And once you start to be sensitized, it gets worse with each time you use it. So it's definitely something to avoid happening. Remember, you need to just sometimes you just need to be safe. I gather you've just passed your health and safety course, Sophie, which is good, isn't it? So there we are. Let's scrape that into there. I'm going to wipe that so we don't leave that on there, and I will bag and seal all of my resin stuff so that my local bin men don't come into contact with it, rather than just putting it loose into my bins, because that's not fair. And definitely don't try washing any of these components down your sink. You will not appreciate it one little bit when you do. So let's just lid that, and then let's just grab my A spoons and pop these into here. There we are. So I'm just mixing up what's to me is a manageable amount. I could mix up a lot smaller, but I've got a plan. I will use the remaining roses later on for another project. And I'm not going to mix that. I'm just going to take a clean scoop, clean one of these, and absolutely pop that into there. Scrape as much out as possible. You need to be reasonably accurate. Resin requires a chemical reaction to set. So there we are. Absolutely have to have PPE. I don't feel I need to wear a face mask with this. It's not liquid enough to splash. It doesn't overtly have a aroma, but if you feel safer wearing a full FFP3 mask, then that's what you should do. But I'm not unduly worried by that. Now then, there we are. I knew we'd put those over there. There we are. So we've got some extra little pots. It's easier to mix a bigger quantity and then divide it up. So, and what might that be for? You might well ask. Wow, you'll discover sooner or later. So let's just mix these two together. You need to mix fairly thoroughly. You will see that the whole thing becomes one continuous colour with no streaking. So mix it till you get to there. The recommendation is 2 or 3 minutes. There is a working time of about 15 minutes for this resin in the pot, and if you're being slow at putting it into your moulds, then the temperature in your cup will get a little bit warmer as it gets to its needing to set and be poured, and that's a good indicator that you need to get a sugar lung and get it poured into your moulds as quickly as possible. So I'm wanting a mixture of things. mixture of colours. There we are. Pop that into there. And I'm working on a silicone mat because that's safer. Hi, Debbie. Welcome, my darling. So, well, that's not very good, is it? Let's just chuck that one into there. That looks like it's got a hole in it. That's got a bit taken out of it. That will do. That will do. So I'm going to mix some colours into these. So let's just pop some, leave some of that in there. We want a little bit of white because that's what I want. I have a little bit more white. There we are. So that pot I'm going to leave white. So I'll pop that over there so I don't mix things up and get confused. It's very easy when you're doing lives to think you've done one thing and do something completely different. And let's just give that a wipe. So we will be using that. Right, so let's clear some of this off here. So we've got that. So I have two different resin tints. I have Rose, which is already quite pale. And remember, by adding this into the resin, it will become paler. There we are. She says, with her things on, about to sniff and pick her nose. So let's just mix that in. So I now have what is actually a very, very soft pink here. There we are. Very soft pink, but definitely pink when you compare it to the white. And I want a more vibrant or darker pink. So I'm actually going to use the red resin tint for this one. So let me just give this a little bit of a shake. And then I can pop some of this in. And you can add up to 2% of your resin tints to your resin mix. So that's quite a lot when you're thinking about the numbers of drips. And I put 2 or 3 drips into there and going to mix it all up. And again, by mixing the colour in, that helps again to find the fact that I've mixed everything fairly thoroughly into here. Okay. There we are. Pop that into there. Oh, she says, let's just not throw that on the floor. So, you can do a marble effect with resin, darling. You absolutely can. Look at the mess. Right. I need to pick something up and I don't want to have that. And notice I'm turning my gloves inside out and I'm not going to try putting those back on, but I don't want to transfer colour from my resin over onto my piece that I want next. So I'm just going to pop on some clean gloves. Once the resin's set, you can work with. I do think what it's so important when you're demonstrating how to do something safely that you actually this properly. So my my glass jars, that's a different one, have a nice lid, and I've selected these deliberately because the lid is shaped. There we are, and that means I can do a resin pour into here. So that's the plan. So I'm just going to, and I know my surface is reasonably straight because, ooh, she says. There we are. We're going to need a little bit more of that. Okay, so I've got 2 different shades of pink on there, and then I've got a little bit of the white. So let me just fill this up. So let's just pop this into here. Yeah. Let's just pop another little bit of that into here, just to fill it up. Okay. And here is the answer to the straw. So it's got an angle. So that means I can blow. Yeah, and then you can make as abstract as pattern as you want. Now I can see a little bit of a pickle on the side, and I could possibly do with a little bit extra resin into here. Let me just clean that down, and then I can pop this properly out to the side just with my plastic spatula, and that will help fill that in and take it. I actually do think I just want to add just a tiny bit more, but you can then, there we are, that will help fill that area up. Come on, drip, 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 drip. And then I can re-blow and spread it around a little bit. There we are. Because I don't want the lines. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to pop that there. It's got a. There we are. And I'm just going to blitz that with a little bit of the rubbing alcohol, and the bubbles will come up to the surface, and that can now safely go down onto the floor. Let's see whether this is going to behave now or not, just with having that extra. So just that extra time for my live is now, this is the piece I cast earlier that 10 minutes ago I couldn't lift out because I felt it was stretching. It's now happily coming out of my mould. And if you've got extra bits, you can just spend your time. So you can see just how soft that is, but it's now come out. So that's meant that I think there were, yeah, it's been cast about 2.5 hours. Okay. So I am just going to, because I know where I want that to go long term, I'm just going to pop, I'm going to take, I'm going to just pop it onto here. I don't really want it over that, but that's fine. I'll have enough movement long term. So I'm just going to shape that round there. Okay, so this is just a cake lace mold, ladies. Nothing more complicated than a cake lace mold. And there's lots of them on the market, and they're very pretty and they're very delicate. But I thought if you can cast modelling paste light in these and the heavy body gels, and I do say, as a warning, it is a little bit messy, and I think I probably haven't quite cast enough resin, but that's okay for demonstration purposes, isn't it? Because we don't need to have masses. So let's just pop that, as much of that onto there as possible. We might have a variegated mould for this one, so let's pop that there. Let's just take what's left in there, pop that onto there. This is about showing you what I was doing as much as anything else, and those can go on there. So I'm not going to have enough to fill, but I always have spare moulds with me, and that means that I can then fill. So these ones I could refill with any resin I make in the future and have multicolored pieces. So that's where those are from there, but I didn't want to mix up masses and masses. So cake lace mould, Pentart do their own, but you can use others. And then all you need to do is take a little spatula and fill your mould. And I found that these plastic cake spatulas are more effective than a palette knife for doing this. And then you just literally swipe along and carry on feeling. So you can see that it's not going to take masses. It's not going to be quite enough for the whole of this mould, and that's fine. There'll be more on here than you think. And it's really important that you take off as much as possible, because to get rid of all of the little nooks and the cranny bits, because otherwise you'll spend ages picking out all of the bits that you haven't. There we are. So there we are. Hi, Elizabeth. So that is how we made the pieces, and I'm just going to give that a good clean, pop that over there, and it will ping off there, and now I can get rid of my gloves. So that's how I've made all the pieces. Let me just pop some of this, because I've got lots of bits here, and that resin is still not cured, so I don't particularly want to put my hands on it. And even this mould here on the other side of here, this is what you get out of it. So beautifully detailed. Now this is no longer particularly flexible, so you just need to be aware of that. It does thicken and become pretty rigid over time. So let's just take that whole little lot off here and pop it out of harm's way. I don't really wish to knock anything flying, especially the other lid. So let's just pop that over there on a flat tray. So what are we going to do? So we're going to come back to our pot. And the step 1 crackle is now completely dry because we're back clear. There is a texture, I can see bits on it, and we're adding more texture anyway. I didn't want a plain surface. I want to add some detail. I want a soft, pretty, romantic feel. I know, since when do I do romantic? But hey ho, I just thought that with using the lace mould, romantic was the way forward. But you could do lots of other things. So this is the step 2 transparent cracking gel. There we are. And we're just going to add a bundle more. There we are. And I might have got too much, but hey ho, that's fine. I'll live with that. Okay. But I don't want a clear crackling gel. And I hear you say, but you've just used a transparent crackle medium. So why are you saying you don't want it clear? Well, I just wanted something that was a bit more pretty, a bit more delicate, and a bit more in keeping with the idea of romantic. And again, you could do this with any of your mica powders or pigment powders. Because this, so here I have some of the art mica from Pentart in the shade Rose. And I'm just going to add a little bit into there, and we'll mix it in and we'll see what colour we have when it's properly mixed in, because a little bit will go a long way. I think I might have underdone that, but that's okay. You can always add. It's much harder to take away. So I'm going to mix that into there, and I can see I've still got bits of mica on the edge of there, bits on the bottom. So my white paste is definitely no longer white. It is a very soft, pretty pink, and it will be dry a little bit paler than that. So I'm literally just going to add a little bit extra and see where we go. I don't want a bright pink. I can show you what bright, if you take it at the next step, once this is on and drying, I will show you what happens when you put an awful lot in. It's very pretty, but it's maybe not the effect that you want. There we are. So I think that's all reasonably well mixed in. Don't see any obvious big lumps of that. So let's layer this. Good afternoon, Terry. Welcome, my darling. Welcome. Right, eeny, meeny, miny. Let us find a decent dish. Not necessarily my best quality. No. So, oh, good. Let's get rid of the creepy crawly that's decided to fly around. Get off. There we are. So this is, as I say, it's just my transparent cracking gel, and all I'm going to do now is add a layer of this onto here. And how thick you add this will determine the size of your cracks. I have a piece I've completed. So let's just get a layer of this onto here, and then we can add some more if we need to into other areas. So we've got some crack variations, and we're just adding, don't want thick globs, there we are, but we don't want thin either. There we are. Oh, she says, bashing everything. There we are. There. You think I'd learned that it would be more sensible to have decided to do this with the smaller one, wouldn't you? But hey ho, not like being difficult on a live and choosing to do the biggest of the 3 jars that I bought that are the same, from the same sort of family of products. I'm going to have masses left over, so I can happily add some thicker areas. There we are. So we get a variation in crackles. I don't really want to be wasting this, but I don't want it going to be so thick that we're going to be here for ever and a month of Sundays waiting for it to crack either. There we are. There. Let's just add some areas that are a little bit thicker. Use up this crackling paste that we've got, so that we've got some mixtures onto here. It's not all a flat. Come on. There we are. Let's get that off there. There we are. But equally, I don't want it so thick. We're going to be here till tea time tomorrow, waiting for it to dry. Let's deal with those big ugly lumps. Because the thicker the layer, the thicker the crackles. There we are. There we are. So we're now covered in a pretty thing, and normally I'd have a second pot and I could dry that. So that's off. That's off. Let me, because we can grab a second tool that has a longer. There we are. A longer. So that now is going to go into here because we need to get it to dry. And again, by heating from the inside of my glass, the moisture in the crackle is going to be pushed out, which means that we have far less chance of things actually bubbling or scorching. So by doing it this way, it just does work. It just now needs to work. So all of our components are ready. I've shown you how I made my lace. I've shown you how I poured the resin and marbleized it with my straw. And I've shown you how to shape molds to the surface. And of course you could do this in any colour. You could do it with the metallic packing paste and put your pigment powders into your molds. That would look equally lovely. So lots of variations on this theme. Not too difficult to do, not too time consuming to go. So for those of you that need to batch make for any reason whatsoever, then it's quite helpful to be able to have projects that really don't take you so long to do. But now we now just need to be patient. And patience is a virtue, isn't it? There we are. We'll just move back and we'll open it more directly at the areas of here, and it will dry reasonably quickly. Don't really want to put a second heat gun into here. Good afternoon, Sarah. I trust that you are well, my darling. I'm glad your TV is now sorted. I'm sure you're relieved. I hope you have some time to watch something nice this afternoon or this evening, whatever it might be. There we are. I can see that it's beginning to crackle, but you won't be able to see it's beginning to crackle because it's on the side. But we will get there. And the glass will have, I can see that there's actually heat coming off that. So let me just move that around a little bit. Thank you, Sarah. Much appreciated, my darling. Don't really want to bubble everything, so let's just pop that around. But to attach my embellishments and things, I just need to have this dry. So there we are. I can see I've got steam coming off at the moment. You might not be able to see it, but I certainly can. So let me just, we'll get there. If you try to do it, I could heat this from the outside, but as I say, the real risk of heating from the outside is that you will bubble your product as it goes, and I want it to dry from inside out, not the top. That makes sense, but we'll get there. We just need to be patient. It won't take a silly amount of time to come together. Once it starts to dry, this will go fairly quickly, I think. Turn that around. So I trust that everyone is well and that they're all enjoying life. I really don't know why I've got that stuff. My camera or computer going clicking it on and off. I think because it's not happening to everyone else. And I guess I could have used that. I'll tell you what, whilst that's cooling down, because it does need to, it still needs a bit more of a dry. Let me grab what happens when you use lots of mica in your paste. So yeah, I said I wanted a really pale colour for this. When you add more, this is what you get, a really dark colour. So this is a work in progress, but that needs to cool down, and then it's going to need to be reheated, and that's fine. That's not a problem. So let me just take some of these bits off here. There we are. And we might as well do the next step of this one whilst that continues to dry. That's the tacky. I don't want the tacky. Let's just pop that onto there. And the molds are so delicate, I didn't really want to use a bucket. And as I say, this is definitely a work in progress, but that's fine. That's the whole purpose, isn't it? But I need to just so I'm just going to add some tacky, some of the Pentacolor Express glue, which will dry clear. Doesn't matter if it's going to dry a bit all shiny, because my mica is already shiny. So I can pop that onto there. Don't want a thick layer. Let's say this is the steps that we're going to do anyway. So that can then go onto there. And I've got another piece that needs to link in to there. So that can go onto there. Right, eeny meeny, just stay there. And I can now just glue that down onto there and let it stick in place. Grab, because the express glue grabs quite quickly. So that goes over there. Right, it is getting there, but not quite, but that's okay. I need this to be dry for the next step. I really do need this to be dry. So we're just going to have to be very patient just while it gets it. I hate food that gets in the way. It's like, I know, but unfortunately we require food to live. Go to the outside, and then so I can see I've got nice crackles appearing on here. I just need to get this a bit more dry. Oh, I could show you on the other one what I was going to do. There we are. So I can still see where it's milky. And of course, that's myself. I would just walk away, let it dry completely, not be worried about force drying it. But hey-ho, such is life. It's better, it's all beginning to go. I'm just going to hold this piece in place while it glues down. I can heat this and speed this one up as well while it's gluing. That's better. Just need to hold that while it settles itself down. And I think actually, oh right, it's going to be less sticky for me to do that with. There we are. So where my paste is thicker than other areas, it is slightly pinker. It's still not completely dry, but we'll worry about that. There we are. I think that's the least of his problems, Sarah. I think that's the least of his problems. So there we are. That's that one onto there. That can sit there. They're now anchored down. So let's just repeat. Yes, let's repeat this, and then we'll have to be careful with the next step. So I might just do it on something different. Right, excellent. So now, approximately in the middle of here, just going to add some of this glue all the way up and down. I think you are hot. Don't want a big thick layer. Just needs to be an air that's thick enough. There we are. Okay. So there is my piece of lace. Okay. That I want to sit reasonably straight onto there. So let's just pop that and onto here. So it's reasonably straight. Hold it in place. Get rid of some of that extra glue. You know when if you're not straight in place because your two ends don't line up, and you think you've got a big mess there and a big gap. There we are. Okay. So an ideal world, I would have just had this glue straight down already and not worried about it. Now before I do anything else, I'm just going to give that a little bit of a blast to get that glue dry. And then we're going to make it even more pretty. So you can see that my lace is now on here. You might not be able to see the crackles. You might well be able to see a mucky mess at the moment. I have to plan for the gap. So the thing is, like with those cake lace models, I knew there was going to be a gap because you can just take them and wrap them around and see where you're going to be. Okay. We'll do that bit right at the end. So now I have some white antique paste. Because I've got the base onto here with the glue, it's going to, there we are, now sit in There we are. And fill all of those lovely crackles. There we are. Hence the concept of a pretty romantic project. Yeah, you can really see. So that my transparent crackle is no longer transparent. It's definitely pink, very pale pink, but that's fine. My crackles will fill. I will take a clean cloth and buff those in a minute. There we are. There we are. Possibly that could have done with having that just a little bit further down, but hey ho, we'll not worry. It's reasonably straight and it won't overall matter. So that is an oil-based product, but you could use oil paint quite happily. That would work. So let's just wipe that off there. So give that a little bit of a polish. I can see I've got a little bit of my lace still tucked up there, so let's just give that a push down. There we are. So I now have very pale but very pretty effect here. And it really does, I can see that I've just got an area here where I haven't filled the crack. So there we are. And I can carry on and add more if I want to, particularly as it continues to dry. I think there's still another big crack there that I haven't filled, but there we are. It's a beautiful, beautiful, shabby effect. And remember, right back at the beginning, I had cast these. Now then, they seem to have moved as in the drying. So there we are. Let's just, I need to just get these so they're at the right angle for the way they dried. That will work for me for now. What have I not got on my desk? Oh, that will be gel medium. Wow. Good grief, I'm down to one. Oh no, I'm not. I've got two more on the floor. Okie dokie. So let's just pop this over here. Let's just put a good glob of that onto her. Take the excess off. So that can sit onto there and sit there until that has dried. I have a second one for something different, and that is also just fine. So that just needs to be left there to dry. Let's just pop that onto there so it doesn't slide. And pop that over there. This is a lid, Sophie. I think you can see it's bubbled and mixed around together. It's got the white, the pale pink and the dark pink all into there. And I have another cast piece of the flower. And that can just, you could leave that lid just as it is. You wouldn't necessarily need to add anything else. But I'm just going to pop that into the center of there. So that gives me a lid, which I can pop on once that is dry. And I can see a glob of gel medium popped out here that I don't want. So I'm just going to take that out of the way. There we are. So the resin pieces is just going to link the mold and define the front of my piece. And here, in good old-fashioned Blue Peter style, because those need to dry, is one I made earlier. So this one, I possibly had more pink in here than I have on there. So just be aware of that. We've got our lace piece, which goes all the way around it with one piece added. We've got our crackles. We've got our lid. And because we haven't used any mediums inside, this is a functional jar. But I think because we can, let's just unravel a set of lights. Hey, like it when a plan comes together. So this could be stuck on the, if you didn't want to use this for anything else, you could then stick this on the top of the inside of the jar. I'm just going to drop it in there for the moment. But then I have a very pretty lit up jar shining all the way through my crackle. So that's the plan. Let me just retrieve that. Pop that in there. So, as I say, I think you could do this for lots of different occasions. You just need to choose your mediums appropriately to the style that you're wanting to make, or the colours that work for you. It would work for Christmas quite happily. You could use some of the metallic crackles without any problems. And it's a super simple, if a little laborious project. I am so pleased that you're liking what we've done tonight. It is, as I say, a very pretty project, but I wanted something that was going to be romantic, if that makes any sense. So I've got pieces on the floor all the way around me to dry. I do trust that you will join me next week for Pentacolor Live. I have no idea what I'm doing next week, whether it's going to be another resin piece or whether it's going to be something independent of showing the beautiful resins. So for now, please stay safe. Hugs and prayers to those of you that may be in need of that at this difficult time for the world. And I will see you shortly. Bye.